One of the most remote nations on Earth, threatened by rising water levels, has today experienced the damaging impact of what's known as a king tide. Tuvalu is a small group of islands 10,000 miles and 11 time zones away in the South Pacific. Islanders fear that the area could disappear within 50 years if action isn't taken over climate change. Well, our environment correspondent, David Shookman, has travelled to the islands, and we can join David there now.
Hugh, thank you. It's a stormy time here in the heat of the South Pacific, just the combination of high tides and strong winds that people dread. Because Tuvalu is so low in the water, it really does run the risk of becoming the first country to fall victim to the way our climate is now changing.
Incredibly beautiful, but incredibly vulnerable. The fragile strips of green that make up this country only just break the surface of the ocean. But for how much longer? The mighty waves of the Pacific pound the shoreline during what's called a king tide, the highest tides of the year, and the effects can be devastating. This is the island's main road.
I mean, we've never seen this in the past, water coming all the way up to this far. And our house is just up behind us.
But the water also surges up from underground, through the coral the islands are built on. In the space of an hour, the lowest areas are all flooded.